Well, welcome everybody. We're so excited to introduce Valerie Smith. Val, we asked to come on here to talk to us a bit about feminism, specifically feminism as we really step into the new paradigm, as we step up as feminine leaders. And Val was in our high level leader accelerator the last 2 rounds, actually. So we've had the great pleasure of getting to know Val and her medicine and everything else. And Val, you have such a unique perspective on feminism. We just wanted to have you on and talk about this a little bit. And just to let anybody who's watching this later, this is sort of just the beginning of a conversation that we're going to be continuing on Zoom for our monthly New Paradigm Leadership Network call. So that's going to be on July 30th, 7 o'clock Eastern. So that's going to be on Zoom. It's not going to be here on Substack, but definitely make sure that you're subscribed to NPLN and you'll get the Zoom link for that, because this is going to be a great discussion. We're going to get to dive even deeper into a lot of the topics that we're going to kind of touch on today. And also, we want to hear from everybody too. Like, what do you think of?
Where'd Valerie
Oh no,
go?
we lost Val. We lost Val. Let me see if I can get her back. Just sent her an invite.
Oh, yeah, there she is, waiting.
Oh, is she there? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, Wendy. Thanks for joining. There's
What
Val.
happened?
Val's back. Val's back.
I hit something and I was like, what happened?
We got you. We just really
We're
right
so
back in.
excited today.
That was awesome.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. We are. It's our first 3-way Substack live, and it's exciting. All right. So, and Wendy too, also, since you're joined here too live, let us know if there's, like what you think about when you think of feminism. Because I know when we first started talking about feminism, and Val, you were telling us a bit about kind of like your perspective from it. I know for me, like just thinking of the word feminism was, I'm not going to say triggering or anything else like it, but I think feminism and I think like, ooh, like man haters.
It's
you know
been
what I
run through the mud. Yeah.
It has. It has. Yeah. So Val, tell us a little bit about feminism from your perspective, because you're like an OG, when it comes to all this anyway.
So first, I want to give you guys props for the accelerator program, because I feel like
Thank you.
What I realized is that feminism has always just been a part of who I am, but really tapped more deeply into it. And I think that a lot of women, I mean, if you use a credit card, if you have a bank account, if you can have an abortion, if you can, own property, then those are all things that were through the women's rights movements. And so how are we not all feminists, right? But some of the stereotypes are very negative, which the more I think about it, I might get a little woo-woo here, but the more I think about it, it's really a way to keep women down.
Right.
Right. Every negative word, witches were burned, feminists were man haters, and there's so many other stereotypes. But we had to fight really hard to get where we are now. And part of my spin is that in conjunction with a lot of what you both talk about as far as the spiritual community, and how in some corners there's a lack of authenticity, right? It's a rote response, or here's a format that I'm going to use. I think that in some ways women see feminism that way. I have to be a certain way. I have to think a certain way. And we're every layer of women in the feminism movement. It's not one type of person. It's the homemakers. It's the people who work outside the home. It's the single moms. It's the married moms. It's the people with no kids. We have a right to all these choices. And for me, the core of feminism is choice. Choice over body autonomy, choice of where we live, choice of the career path, choice of our future. It doesn't mean that everything has to work out perfectly, but the fact that we don't always have choice right now is concerning. And it concerns me also that there are younger generations who don't realize how we got here, what had to happen to get here. And that's not even adding in intersectionality. It was feminism was the rise of the women's rights movement was more geared toward white women. And really that intersectional piece is so important because it's all women everywhere. And it was interesting. I supervise interns on Wednesdays, and it's a group of 5 women. So I thought, I always do this to my students. I said, this has nothing to do with your patients, but when I say feminism, what's the first word or two that come into your head, right? And it was very interesting because there are multiple generations. So first, Jane Fonda, who is, if you're not familiar with Jane Fonda, you should look her up because she's incredibly knowledgeable and she's a force to be reckoned with. Burn bra, that was from the 70s. That was
that's what I was thinking too. I was thinking burning bras, yeah.
Fighter, supporter of equality, anger and angst based on the lack of quality available, frustration. And I really feel that I'm afraid I'm going to lose myself again with the button. There's a time to fight, and that time is not over. There are many fights that we will need to have and protests that we will need. But it's also okay to just be, and that's enough too. And that is incredibly powerful. If we just stand in our truth and just be, it's so incredibly powerful. More so than if we try to argue our point to someone who doesn't really want to hear it. But if we just, this is my truth. But I'll give you an example. This was years ago, but I'll give you an example. There's an abortion argument, and there's many different opinions on that. And again, choice. And a friend of mine really was pushing, like, well, what about now? What about now? And I just said, this is a choice a woman makes for herself with her doctor. End of story, period. No one else should be but what about this? No, that's it. And the conversation ended. And I would like to say I planted a seed with her. I don't think I did for like a discussion, but we need to allow ourselves to just stand in our truth. And sometimes when we are pushing back against something, we feel we have to justify ourselves or prove our point. Yeah. And we don't.
Right.
We can just do our thing and also lift each other up. Look around, look around to see who's needs a little boost. Look around to see who needs something that you can support. That's my little soapbox moment. It's like a fire in me now.
And I think it's really important, like moving forward, and the type of feminism I feel like we all want to connect with is including men and the masculine, and one of the points in this book, I was talking about this book because we're going to dive deeper into this, but she was talking about when the feminine energy was really strong on the planet, there was an emphasis on partnership. And we can start to see that coming back. And I don't know who I was saying this to, but I was like, I don't want I'm single. I don't want a boyfriend. I want a partner, that feels like a higher form of relationship, like something. And I do feel too that as women rise, men will rise. Like it needs to be this cohesive working together structure. Yeah. And the other thing is too, in America, we have a lot of freedom and there are things going on. But one of the things that caught my attention, I think it was last week, is I don't know if any of you saw, but the Taliban just recently put more restrictions on women, and they basically have no rights. In, I think it's Pakistan, if I'm correct. Girls are banned from attending secondary schools and universities. Women are largely excluded from public workforce, including government administration, healthcare, outside strict conditions. Women are prohibited from working directly with male clients or running public spaces like beauty salons. Like, that's crazy. That's such a huge part of our culture. And I feel like that's an attack on the feminine right there, is that women aren't allowed to show their beauty, their body,
Yep.
like the things that make them feel good and make them feel sensual. Yeah, they implemented a lot more laws where they basically like have nothing. And it's like, how do we as women that are free here hold our freedom and assist women in places like that where they have like nothing?
I agree. And I believe there are, I don't know what the organizations are, but the first thing that popped into my head when you were talking was, I think her name is Malia. She's just written a book about her experiences, but when she was 13, she was it Afghanistan? I apologize if my facts.
It's one of those. It's Afghanistan, Pakistan.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know,
she was
yeah.
shot because she refused to stay home. Girls
think
weren't
I know who
allowed
you're
to go to
talking about,
school.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And now she thankfully survived and went to college and just wrote a book about her experiences. And I feel that we really need to shine a light more on those people, those women who are incredibly courageous, and opening the path for the ones after them. And I think we need to do that too. We're not going to get shot, but we need to open the path. We need to keep the paths open to those who are coming up next and help them rise up. Especially young women who are still finding their way in the world, and to know that they can be empowered. Financial literacy is one of the key pieces of the puzzle there, so that there's a choice. They don't have to be with someone for financial reasons. They can be with someone because they want to be with someone.
Right.
I think that's really important.
Yeah. I feel like these topics too, it's just like it's another subject of not just duality, but like of how we're being pinned against each other. Because like right now in the US where we all are, we see a lot of, it's like this like trad wife movement against this like ultra feminist movement. And we have to recognize that like that's why I love your perspective so much, Val, because it's about choice. So it's not about making any decision wrong that a woman is making, but it's defending her right to make that choice, right? And
100%.
being able to do that. And so I feel like it's like anything else, it's the more we can stop fighting against each other about it and saying like this is right, this is wrong, or anything else, and instead just looking at like, well, what do we all want? Like what do we all want? And we all want freedom. We all want to be able to make those choices. I do also think that in the US, and before our NPLN call, I'm going to look more into this, some of this like research in these books. But I also know that feminism has been weaponized too in the US to, again, create, I think, more division, and also to, I think, in some ways, steer women away from becoming mothers and from becoming, being homemakers and everything else, because there's no right path or wrong path or anything like that. But I think that in some ways it does kind of push women further in that direction of like, well, you can do anything, you should do anything, and then,
anything includes, but that kind of that's left unsaid.
It's left unsaid. Right, it's left unsaid. So it's like overall there just needs to be less judgment on what any of these decisions are, and there needs to be less like choices are just being made for you based on your culture, based on your lineage, based on like what your parents expect of you, based on what society expects of you, and really coming into like what it is that you want to do and how you want to lead, right? And the life that you want to live and create. And also bringing more, like you said, Val, like more awareness and shining more light on the women who are doing really intense work in other areas of the world. Like I do not take for granted by any means like the amount of freedom and everything that we have here. I mean, it's insane. And it's also a little scary at the same time, because you can kind of see where things are being talked about that
Right.
are, infringing on some of that.
Frightening.
Like I was just, it's frightening. I was just watching something about how they're trying to change it so that there's a vote, like for voting, like they're essentially taking away
Oh, the
women's
SAVE
right
Act.
to vote. Yep, so that there's a household vote instead of a
Yeah.
individual vote.
Yep.
And which is absolutely ridiculous because I know so many couples who like one is a Republican and one is a Democrat in the
Oh,
same
yeah.
house.
Mhm.
And I
You
think
know?
that's part of a trad wife
Mm,
scenario where there's the head of the household votes.
mhm.
But also things like the SAVE Act, which, it's getting a lot of attention, but the idea that you have to vote with an ID that makes sure that you have your birth name, your birth certificate. So for women who are married and have changed their names, it means that they have to provide a trail of documentation that shows here's my birth certificate, but here's my marriage certificate, and this is why my name is different. And and may need to provide a real ID or a passport. And for some people it sounds really simple. Like I have a passport, I have a real ID, it's no biggie for me. But that there's an expense to that. And
Right.
for some, like, and sounds very random, but I was watching Lisa Murkowski talking about this. Like in Alaska, someone would have to travel 4 hours to get to the office where they could get a passport.
Wow.
And that's a day's work done. So there are things that that we need to work against, definitely.
We don't need any more hoops to jump through.
100%.
You know, I feel like we're sick of that on all ends.
And, I just was thinking, I just want to go back to something you said also, Alyssa, about fighting against each other. And I feel that some of that came up through like the 60s and 70s, because part of the movement is we can do everything a man can do. We're going to power of the pantsuit. So women wore pants to show that they were, ready to go, because that was like unheard of, business pantsuits. And instead of now, I think we don't have to prove anything. We're already here.
Right.
And I think part of that judgment was, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you wearing pantsuits? Why aren't you working in corporate? Because we got to do this. We got to show. But, for some, that was very destructive to go in that path. And for others, it was the path that made sense to them. And I agree with you 100%. It needs to be choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And less judgment for sure. I
Yeah.
feel like we're seeing that in all communities now. Like everyone is fighting amongst each other right now. Like we see a lot of that in the spiritual community. They are going at it.
Yep.
Yeah. They are going at it. And for me, I'm just kind of like, okay, I get it. Like you want to voice your opinions, but also too, we need to work together. The next phase is co-creation. That's what I feel like the next phase is this renaissance and co-creation. Like that's going to be the revolution. And you can't participate in that if you're constantly judging people and you're constantly pointing the finger and you're constantly like, this person's wrong and this is the right way. And there's not going to be co-creation. So I feel like it's also too, like, who's going to take part in these co-creation practices with each other? And then I feel like it's just also going to be these people that are consistently just arguing about things, and it's all a distraction. It's all a story.
100%. I feel like some of it, because we have that in the acupuncture community too, and I always call it the dogmatic.
Yes.
I'm not dogmatic. I don't tell my patients they have to do this or they're going to be dead in a week. That's an extreme. I don't ever say that. But I don't give my patients a list of everything they have to do, because, most people can't do 16 new things.
Right.
We prescribe acupuncture. We do acupuncture prescriptions and point prescriptions. Different practitioners have different perspectives on how to combine. The points still have the same functions, but they're combined differently. And then there's some that are just dogmatic. This is how you treat this. This is how you treat that. And it's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure you don't have 100% cure rate. I'm sure you don't have a 100%
Right.
success rate, because now you're not seeing the patient. Like now we're not seeing ourselves and each
Mhm.
other. We're just seeing this distraction, like you said.
Yeah. And there was one other thing I wanted to bring up too, based on what you said, Ashley, about how like modern feminism and the feminism that we're really talking about that's going to help and assist us like in the new paradigm is bringing both men and women into it.
Mhm.
And I think
Yeah.
that's really, really important, especially for me as a mom of 2 boys,
Mm.
and I see
Yeah.
everything that happens out there, like, and how, how it's like we can't look at the past and say because that's how it was, now
Mhm.
it's men's turn and boys' turn to be whatever so that women can whatever,
Mhm.
Like it needs to be like everybody. Like these little boys like didn't do anything wrong. They didn't,
Right.
like do anything to anybody, to then just like grow up and then be treated because okay, there's this like very combative, almost like feminist energy of, well, you're good for is procreation. You're not good for anything else. Like, because I've come across that. I will never forget this Uber ride. I don't know if I told you guys this before, but my girlfriend was up visiting and the boys were out of town and we went somewhere, out, we were like getting drinks or something, and we took an Uber to come home. And this woman, I should have reported her probably. She starts coming in talking about, first of all, the way she was even, like, talking about, like, even her daughter, like, calling her a slut and, like, saying all these things, and then saying how her other job is she's, like, a paid
Mhm.
dominatrix, and she, like, loves it because she gets to just, like, beat the shit out of these men and, like, humiliate them and do all these things, and she gets paid for it and how much she loves it, and then she just goes on and on and on talking about, like, how much she hates men, how terrible men are,
Mhm.
all of this stuff, talking about feminism. And I was just mortified. I was like sitting in the back seat, like absolutely mortified, and it's almost like really feminism, it's not about men versus women or masculine
Right.
versus feminine or one is better than the other, and I think we've all seen that pendulum swing where it was so in the direction of the masculine for so long, and then
Mhm.
not the world per se, but I think individually a lot of us on this feminine path swung too far to the other direction too,
Mhm.
where it was like a little bit too, in the feminine and not enough balance. So it's like coming back into that balance and understanding how these energies work together, how we create together and also how we respect each other, you know?
Yeah.
I agree with that. And I also, a lot of the problematic, I'm going to say problematic men, because I've been reading a lot about the main candidate and the sexual assault allegations. And that's also another hot point, that women aren't believed. And
Mhm.
yet there are some men that are innocent. I think
Mhm.
it's
Right?
fewer.
It's both.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
both.
Um,
Right. That was a big thing with the Me Too movement. Was there were a lot of men that were getting taken down for things that they never did. But again, it's like
Right.
it's almost like there's this, it's like, "Oh, we have to balance the scales." Like, we have to take, them all down or however many, like, all down, and, it's just sad that we can't just, like, believe people, to the point where, like,
well,
to
and
just move
women are so
forward.
used to not being believed. Like
Right.
the Epstein files is one example. The Weinstein, there was one woman who had taken Harvey Weinstein to court for rape, and she had to go through 7 different courts over the years, over 9 years, and retell her story again and again and again, that finally she said, "I'm done. This is not worth it to me. This has taken 9 years out of my life." Um, and I think also I'm a little stream of consciousness right now, so you'll have to forgive me. Going back um, to men, is we need to socialize little boys and young men in a way
Yes.
that allows them to have feelings, allows them to express, allows them to have compassion, allows them to see women as more like a partner and the traits of a woman and not something to get.
Right. The value of having a woman in your life, you know?
And it's really scary right now too with like the internet and the porn culture and the
Yep.
rape culture. Like,
That's
so fucked up that I'm even saying that, but, like,
Mhm.
unfortunately, that's a thing right now in
Yeah.
2026, and, I could not agree more, that needs to happen, and I also feel like that needs to come from the dad, you
Yeah.
know? Like, of course, the
It
mom too
needs
and,
to
like,
come from
witnessing.
men, yeah.
It
Yeah, like,
does.
it needs to come from other men. Like, that
And
needs so
role
so again, coming
models.
back to where, like, men are so important in feminism, like, that's I feel like a really big piece right there too.
I agree with that
Yeah.
100%. And, I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and I agree. It should come from male role models, solid male role models. And for women, women shouldn't have to carry that. Women shouldn't
No.
have to carry the additional weight of trying to educate men because it's, what I hear is, well, it's hard to adapt and stuff like that. Like women adapt like this 10 times a day to what we need to get done. And so we need to teach men to be able to do that too, that it's okay if things change rapidly or someone doesn't like you, how to teach young men and boys how to respond in a way that they're not hated because they're not liked. They don't have to prove anything. They just need to be authentic like we need to be authentic.
Yeah.
I do feel there's like, I connect with a lot of men, and I feel like a lot of men don't have I see myself, and I have a ton of supportive women around me. I know a lot of women that I connect with, they have support. There's not a lot of support for men.
Yep.
There's not enough. And I feel like that's a problem.
Agreed.
And a lot of guys don't want to go to therapy because they don't feel like it's going to work for them. And I can see like how they feel like that, and they feel uncomfortable because they want to hold on to their masculinity so tightly.
Right.
They feel like going to.
Yeah, I also just don't think therapy is really great for men in general, generally speaking.
I think men need more of a tribal,
Physical.
primal,
Yes,
like
exactly.
Physical, yeah.
man, kind of like connection with each other. That's
Yes.
healthy.
Right.
So a lot of men that I know, they're not surrounded by good men.
Right.
It's like a mix,
Yeah.
because there's not a lot of circles for men and like
Exactly.
those types of things because they probably think it's gay, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's got to be some, like seriously, that's what they think. So there needs to be more leaders. Like what I see in the spiritual industry is there's men in there, but they're trying to dangle their wiener for women.
Truth,
I
point.
haven't met a lot of men in this industry that are here for the men.
Right.
Yeah.
That want to assist the men, that want to assist masculinity. We need that right now.
We need that.
We need that so bad.
Because
like
a healthy masculine
masculinity and allowing them to express their feelings, because there's a lot of men that can express their feelings, but it's also very emasculated and childlike, and like there needs to be some sort of balance where I'm in my masculine and I'm grounded and I'm self-aware and I understand who I am as a man, because like that's a lot about being very secure and confident.
Yep.
Like I was telling one of my friends the other day, I'm like, I'm on a dating site now, and all these guys have muscles and tattoos, but like the first thing I see when I look at their face is the little boy in them. A lot of them, I do not see a man. As a woman who's very intuitive, I can look at them and be like, oh my God, like I can see it so clearly,
Absolutely.
So like they're hiding behind like the testosterone and the muscles and the tattoos or whatever, their bike, the motorcycle, which I love a man with a motorcycle, but like I need a man, not like not a
not a toy.
Yeah, or like,
Unless that's what you feel like on
I
the
don't want a toy. I want a partner. I want somebody who can communicate with me, and
Yeah.
I can see it so clearly while I'm even on there. And the past few years communicating with certain men, like it's just like they don't have a space to go. They really
Mhm.
don't.
Right.
So they're just kind of like floating around out there. And now we're seeing so much, like I am seeing so much domestic abuse, killing families, like men killing their families, pedophile, like the pedophilia is out of control, serious mental health issues with men. Like there really is a lot going on, and there with the masculine right now that needs assistance.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to just say this is my opinion. I'm not putting it to anyone else, but I feel that the leaders in the country are modeling,
Right.
Right.
whether we like it or not, they're
Yeah.
modeling what is acceptable,
Mhm.
which
Right.
is not acceptable, but it's
No.
acceptable.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
like, I feel like part of, I think we as women also need to hold men more accountable, because
Right.
we've been like, oh, it's
Mhm.
just him. And,
No.
we don't want to try to fix men. We just want to hold them accountable. And if we
Yeah.
hold them accountable, then I feel like there'll be more balance. Like we won't be trying to fix someone. They won't be feeling overwhelmed or not connected or whatever it is. But I feel like there needs to be a greater balance in that way too. And I think women are taught to be more submissive in a lot of ways, even if we're not typically.
Right.
Mhm.
And
Keep the peace.
I think that's a piece of the puzzle.
Well, I think some of
Yeah.
us want to be submissive really bad.
I-
When you're in your masculine a lot, you see a man and you're like,
There you go.
I want to be submissive, but you're right. Like we have to hold the line.
Yeah, but
and
that would be
hold-
your choice, right?
right,
You're
and hold that
choosing.
accountability with love, like not like I hate you,
Right.
with love, like
Exactly.
with love. This is what I'm seeing, and like this is like you need this. So it's I do see more men stepping up, like online, like coaches and stuff. Like I'm starting to
Mhm.
see them trickle in for men specifically.
That's
Mhm.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that again, like there needs to be more of those spaces and more program. I feel like I'm starting to see some more of these like types of programs out there for
Mhm.
men where it's like wilderness. It's like Boy Scouts, but for men.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
what they need,
They need that.
And also, coming back to like they need other healthy circles of men. Like I know for my husband, like the only things he likes to go out and do with his friends or that he ever will is like go golfing, where there's drinking usually. And
Mhm.
then or they go out like it's always around alcohol or something
Right.
else. Like
Yep.
it's not
That's a good
like there's
point.
not a lot of just like healthy activity that happens with men. So like and this is where I mean so much I feel like we're going back to just getting back to our roots with tribalism,
Mhm.
and getting back to connecting with the land and taking care of the land. And I think when the more that we do that, the more we naturally also come back to activities and pastimes and things that are how we're naturally maybe supposed to meant to connect and come together and everything else.
Mhm.
And to what you were saying before too, Val, about like, women holding the line and everything else, or holding men accountable, the more I feel like a man can be in his healthy masculine in that way, the more women can really be in our
Mhm.
feminine. Like the more
Right.
we can actually like feel because otherwise I think most of us are mothering our partners.
Mhm.
Like we're like this was a big lesson I had to learn was like, oh my God. Of course I'd been with my husband since we were 17. So in a lot of ways we grew up together. In a lot of ways I replaced his mom in, some of the like just things just naturally through living together and everything else. And then once I became a mom, it was sort of like almost became like my third child, just like somebody else to take care of. Um and I really had to stop doing that. And as hard as it was to actually really like what would it be like to like be the part like really be like the partner here instead of, the mother. And nobody wants to think about that like they're being a mom to their husband or partner or whatever, but like in reality that's a lot of what we're doing is really enabling that same behavior. So without and which I think is really great in a way because it brings power back to us. You know, like none of this is that like, oh, we need to change men. But if we just change
Right.
within ourselves and find that sovereignty and that ability to hold those boundaries and really see like what is it that I actually want. And I think we're going to see more of a rise in men the more that we're seeing this rise in women.
Yes.
You know, it's
I agree.
naturally going to happen. And I think this goes for every healing relationship and family and everything else, right? We know that the more we do the healing work for ourselves, the more that we see that ripple into our loved ones, our family, our friends, our children, our parents, all of that. And it's the same thing with our partners, you know, it's the same thing with our partners. And I've definitely witnessed this myself for sure. And the other thing is like we grow and it either comes with us or it doesn't. You know, like either that comes with us or there's something else that's there for us that's going to meet us where we are in our softness, you know, in our sovereignty, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait for our call at the end of the month because now I feel like this has given me so many ideas and so many like rabbit holes I want to go down before we meet.
I like
and
the rabbit holes.
Me too. Yeah. There's more. It's on my list. I really want to read, obviously, the book you brought up, Ashley. I also really want to read Making the Sandwich by Candace Owens, which is all about
I haven't heard about this.
Yeah, all about feminism. It's very anti-feminism, but anti-feminism in the way of like kind of like what I was talking about, like that you know, more like whatever. So I'm gonna read it before. Now I'm gonna hold myself accountable and read that too before our call. To bring some of that up. Yeah, exactly. Because I think it's also important just to look at different perspectives and hear different perspectives because none of it is right or wrong. There's always going to be a little bit of truth, you know, in all of it and a little bit of shadow in all of it too, obviously,
100%.
right? So
it's so important to see as many perspectives as you can. Because like it's always in the gray area.
It always is. It's in the nuance, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's really about, like you said, Valerie, what you want, your choice. Some women, they want to be making sandwiches for men all the time, you know?
Yeah.
And like serving a man, like some women just want to do that.
And I mean, I was thinking of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying there's
I was going to say, I was thinking about this before the call. Because I in the trad wife, the whole trad wife thing. And I agree that is a choice that everybody has a right to make. If a friend of mine was going in that direction, I would want to know, are you being taken care of? Like, are you seeing a document where if your husband passes away, you have access to the funds? Those kinds of things I would try to suggest or talk to the person about. Ultimately, it's their decision. And if they decide to go in blind, they go in blind. That's their decision. It's not to judge them. But as a friend, I would say, are you taking care of yourself?
Right. That's very important for sure.
So important. Yeah. All right. Well, this is a great conversation, ladies. I can't wait to keep it going.
Thank
you. All right, everybody. We will see you July 30th. There it is. I wrote the date down so I wouldn't forget. All right. Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Bye-bye.